Two of the absolute best boxers of this generation square off on September 13th on Netflix with Terence Crawford going up against Canelo Alvarez. In this video, we will break down what's going to happen, what to bet, what a win means for either's legacy, and much, much more. I am Ninja, joined by Scott Hastings. Welcome to the channel. Hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, and drop your favorite bet for Canelo versus Bud in the comments below. Scotty, as we sit here about 6 days out from the fight. Now, over at FanDuel, we've got Canelo minus 192, Bud coming back around plus 150. Your thoughts on the line here?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. It's important to shop around, as we like to say here at OddsShark. But you can get Canelo at minus 165 over at Bet365. It's a 30-cent swing per dollar. So that's intriguing if you're going on the Canelo side of things. Obviously, if you're playing Bud, FanDuel's the book you want to choose for that. So very, very surprising, I guess, that much of a difference the week of the fight. We had chatted offline last week talking about doing this video and whatnot, and that at the line then Canelo was minus 200. So even on FanDuel has dropped 10 cents there. And I assumed the line was going to tighten up as we approach that fight. Because originally, before even looking at the odds, when this fight was speculated and even then further announced earlier this year, I was putting the line probably Canelo minus 130, minus 140, maybe somewhere in that range, just of how good Crawford is. But of course, you got the weight class, of course, Crawford's last fight, minus 154, jumping up two weight classes, bypassing 160, going right up to 168. Sure, Canelo is going to be the favorite in that position. But seeing him at 2-1 all the way up until this week, I was a little shocked by that. Good number to get Bud. Now that line is certainly tightened. Could be an opportunity. I think it's still going to move further. I do think we're going to land around minus 140, minus 135 for Canelo.
You talked about previous fights, so let's look at that. Let's look solely at each fighter's resume from the time Canelo lost to Bivol. Now, Canelo's got the more impressive resume, right? Like, he has wins against Triple G since then, Jermel Charlo, Jaime Munguia, Berlanga, and then Bud has what? Like the Errol Spence fight, Madrimov. The knock on Bud has always that he's had the underwhelming resume. Is that true?
Well, first of all, I very much like Madrimov. I know the record may not be as sexy as a pro, but in that Eastern European bloc, those guys are notorious for having 400 amateur fights before coming into a pro. Criminally underrated in that fight and almost a write-off, but he brought his skills that day, and it just showed how good Crawford is. Not going to break it down too much in there. Certainly on paper, Canelo has had the tougher resume of recent, and he's been more active. But certainly the resume has to go towards Canelo. And even you bring up the Errol Spence fight, that's Errol Spence after that horrific car accident. So what Errol Spence did we actually see there versus had we seen that fight, several months, almost a year before that? So it is intriguing, but skill set, you can't count out Crawford.
So then let me ask you this. Whose legacy benefits the most from a win in this fight, Canelo or Terence Crawford?
Yeah. I think it's got to be method of victory in this one. Is very intriguing. I think if Canelo scrapes by with a unanimous decision, as he's done I don't think he knocked out Caleb Plant, and that's like 2021. I don't think he's had a knockout since. Decisions all the way, including the Bivol fight, which good fight. He was rocked a few times, never went down, has never gone down. But I think if he scrapes by a split, majority, unanimous decision, unanimous would be interesting. But if he gets a 115, 113 unanimous, I don't think that moves Canelo's legacy any further, although he's pretty much at the top anyway. So, like, his room there. But if he goes and puts Crawford down, staples him to the mat 4, 5, 6 rounds, he does have room to grow there. Obviously, Bud goes up to 168 and beats Canelo in any form or fashion. You got to put him at the GOAT, keeps that O intact. He'd be 42-0 at that point. Obviously, if he put Canelo down, would be astronomical. I don't envision that happening, but if he gets the win, bigger to gain on the legacy. Canelo, if he starches him and really puts on a clinic, certainly there's room to grow, but I don't think that growth is as significant as Crawford.
I want to get your prediction and I want to get what you're betting here, certainly, in a second. But tell me this. Tell me which sports book, in your opinion,
Hmm.
is the best for betting boxing or even just combat sports in general, in your opinion? Does one stand out from the rest?
Yeah. Well, I think leading off this conversation was a perfect example, like sharp line on the Bet365 side of things. Depending which where you're putting your money, you may disagree that FanDuel has the better line, but I do think the more appropriate line was Bet365. Um, Certainly, if you want Canelo, you'll agree with me there. I very much like Bet365 because they offer a lot of round betting, they offer knockdowns, they offer total punches, which is a niche area. But certainly, if you're familiar with UFC or boxing, you know that there's high output guys versus more power technical reserve counter strikers, for example. So Canelo in this case is going to have a lower he has longer odds to outstrike Crawford just based on the way they fight. So if you just know that and you expect it to be long, play with the full 12 rounds, you can just play Crawford to land more punches than Canelo. If you're not bullish on who wins or who gets dropped, that's a perfect entry point. FanDuel will have that, but usually closer to the fight. And obviously, as you get closer to the fight, lines get all stomped over. Bet365 has had these odds for this fight for like 2.5 weeks now, 3 weeks. So if you're sharp and you wanted to get on that fight early, it's a great place to play that. And same with UFC. They have the same thing. They have some ones I wouldn't recommend, like how many leg kicks will be landed. That's just such a hard one to cap. It's more of a throw a dart on the dartboard with your friends. But I very much love Bet365's interface for combat sports.
Give me your prediction here, then, Scotty. Like, what do
Yeah.
you expect to happen inside the ring? And then what are you betting for this match?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a tremendous fight. It really is. Take the weight out of it. What's intriguing to me when I was doing a little more research in this is that despite being the smaller guy in theory with Crawford, he's taller and has a longer reach than Canelo. Half inch taller, and he's got about 4 inches of reach. Interesting. When Canelo went up and fought Bivol, he was fighting a taller, longer guy. Kept him at bay with that jab. When he came in close, as Canelo wants to fight in the phone booth, Bivol made him pay. I don't know if Crawford has the power at 168 to make Canelo pay for coming inside, but I don't know. I think he's going to be so elusive and it's going to frustrate Canelo. When Crawford fought Majimov, again, I'm very big on Majimov. He lost the fight right after that fight as well. So maybe a little down on him currently, but he's a tremendous fighter. He was getting so incredibly frustrated with Crawford that first 2 rounds, Crawford kind of they're playing each other out. He's making his reads. Like first minute, Crawford switched to southpaw. He stayed southpaw for the rest of the fight. So he picked up something there on Majimov. In the third round, Crawford was like, okay, I'm going to put a little pressure on him. And he started to land at will. He landed a lead uppercut over and over again that hit Majimov. Majimov wanted to get those punches back. So he started overextending and he could not touch Crawford, could not touch him. And at one point, he's like hitting his hands. He was so frustrated that he couldn't touch Crawford. I could see that very similar style playing out in this fight where Canelo's going to land his shots. He's going to get his opportunities, but he's going to get frustrated that he can't plant his feet in the pocket, land those vicious body shots. Crawford's just going to move away. And move away. He's going to hit him with a jab and say, no, 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 no. We're staying out of there. So I got a few plays, all that setting the table. Uh, no knockdowns, minus 175. It was minus 160 last week. I really liked it there, minus 175, paying a little more juice. Neither of these guys have been knocked down. Jose Cotto did hit Canelo really early in his career, had him wobbled. He had the ropes to hold him up, but it was not deemed a knockdown. So there's that. Maybe should have been, but that's okay. But he ate those shots from Bivol, Triple G in those 3 fights that they've had there. Ate those shots. Edgar Berlanga, dynamite in his hands. So we know Canelo isn't going down, especially with Crawford coming up 20 pounds. I don't see it happening. Crawford never been dropped as well. So elusive, so technical. His head movement is on just unbelievable. So no knockdowns, minus 175. I really like. That also leads me to the other plays. Um, I deem this kind of safe, but you can play both guys to win by decision at plus money. So it's a good way to, if you're unsure of which way this lands, Canelo plus 125 to win by decision. Crawford plus 200 to win by decision. So you're right there. You can nickel a unit pending this goes the distance. The draw plus 1400. We know boxing loves their dirty old draws in these type of fights. But that sets the table. I'm going Crawford on the money line here by decision. You can find that boosted in a handful of places. They have total rounds over 10 and a half at minus 450. The books think it's going the distance as well. So I'm going to follow that and hope Crawford can sneak one out on the judges' scorecards. Matchroom boxing, though, so you got to be careful that there could be some home cooking with the judges. But that's the way I'm looking at it is Crawford by decision. You can play it on the plus 200, or you just play him outright at plus money right now. I think Crawford does. I think he's going to be too elusive. He's going to fight. He's going to be the better boxer, and I think that's what's going to win out.